The tattoos on that arm didn't match the name on the hospital chart. The patient called himself Arthur Knight, an Irish tutor, he said, caught abroad with no family, no past. But those sleeve tattoos told a different story. They belonged to a man who had faked his own death and fled halfway around the world to escape felony charges. Nicholas Rossi, born Nicholas Alaviardian, grew up in Rhode Island's foster care system. He reinvented himself as a child welfare advocate and survivor. He spoke at conferences, courted politicians, and published op-eds. His story was compelling, a boy who'd survived the system, now fighting to fix it. But behind the polished public persona, accusations were beginning to surface. By 2019 and 2020, multiple accusers in Utah, Rhode Island, and other states came forward with allegations of sexual assault spanning years. A Utah County grand jury indicted Nicholas Alaviardian on felony charges. The accusations were serious, credible, and multiplying. Prosecutors moved to arrest him. For Nicholas Rossi, the walls were closing in fast. In early March 2020, an obituary appeared online. It stated that Nicholas Alaviardian had died of lymphoma. Friends and fellow advocates posted tributes. A public statement, purportedly from a close representative, confirmed his death. By April, the story had faded from public view. But Nicholas Rossi was not dead. He was watching, waiting, and planning his next move. Nicholas Rossi abandoned his apartment and his identity. He left behind no forwarding address, no explanation. Prosecutors attempted to serve him with court papers at multiple addresses, and found no one home. For weeks, investigators remained unsure, was he actually dead, or had he simply vanished? The answer lay waiting across the Atlantic. By late 2020, Nicholas Rossi had arrived in Scotland under a new identity, Arthur Knight. He claimed to be an Irish tutor who had spent years abroad and was now seeking refuge in the UK. He rented a small flat in Glasgow. He made acquaintances. No one questioned him. For more than a year, Arthur Knight lived quietly, anonymously, and undetected. Back in the United States, Detective Sarah Kowalski and federal investigators were not convinced that Nicholas Rossi was dead. The obituary had inconsistencies. There was no death certificate. No autopsy report. No confirmed cremation. Kowalski began cross-referencing immigration records, visa applications, and international travel data. The trail led to the United Kingdom. In December 2021, a man identifying himself as Arthur Knight walked into a Glasgow hospital claiming to be homeless and severely ill. He was admitted and placed on a ventilator due to respiratory distress. Hospital staff documented his condition and his stated identity. But when nurses and staff began to notice inconsistencies in his story, his accent, his background, details that didn't align, someone flagged the case. As Nicholas Rossi lay in the hospital bed, a nurse noticed his distinctive sleeve tattoos. She mentioned them to colleagues. One staff member remembered seeing similar tattoos in a U.S. federal fugitive database circulated internationally to hospitals and law enforcement. The tattoos matched. The face matched. Arthur Knight was not Irish. Arthur Knight was not a tutor. Arthur Knight was Nicholas Alaviardian, a wanted fugitive. On December 10, 2021, Scottish police arrested the patient in his hospital bed. They ran his fingerprints and cross-referenced them with U.S. federal databases. Within hours, confirmation came back. This was Nicholas Rossi, the fugitive who had faked his death. He was formally charged in Scotland with fraud and identity offenses. American authorities simultaneously filed extradition paperwork. Over the next 2 years, Nicholas Rossi fought extradition in Scottish courts. He claimed he was too ill to be moved. He challenged the identity evidence. He hired lawyers. But the case against him was airtight. The tattoos matched. His fingerprints matched. His DNA matched. Immigration records proved he had fled the U.S. under an assumed name and entered the UK without legitimate documentation. As extradition proceedings continued, investigative journalists and prosecutors compiled the fuller picture. They found evidence that Nicholas Rossi had been targeting vulnerable people, people in the foster care system, people seeking help, for years. The accusations spanned a decade. Multiple states. Multiple victims. The fake death was not a desperate act by an innocent man, it was a calculated escape route. In March 2024, after a prolonged legal battle, the Scottish courts approved Nicholas Rossi's extradition to the United States. He was transferred to federal custody and returned to America to face the felony sexual assault charges in Utah and Rhode Island. The fake death, the assumed identity, the years of hiding, all of it was over. Nicholas Rossi entered a guilty plea to multiple felony counts in 2024, including sexual abuse of vulnerable individuals. He is now serving time in federal prison. His victims finally have answers. The system he once exploited for credibility has been reformed to better protect people in foster care. And the man who faked his own death to escape justice learned the hardest lesson: the truth always surfaces, eventually. If you found this story of fraud, identity deception, and justice as gripping as we did, please like this video and follow our page for more real true crime stories that remind us why accountability matters. Thank you for watching.